Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the latest edition of Wow, Lynch, Wow, dedicated to filmmaker David Lynch and inspired by the triumphant return of Twin Peaks. A friendly warning to everyone who isn't caught up on all 11 episodes of the new Twin Peaks. There will be spoilers and they will begin shortly, so viewers and listeners be warned. Part 11 starts with some kids playing catch near a trailer. The ball gets away, and one of the children notices a wounded Miriam crawling around on the ground. So it might not matter if Chad got the right letter beyond exposing Chad's ongoing corruption. Miriam lives. Becky's on the phone and she's all fired up about something. She needs a car, so she calls her mom. Shelly runs out of the diner and Norma eyes her suspiciously. Becky grabs a gun before Shelly arrives, and then she grabs the keys from Shelly and she takes off. Shelly is eager to stop her and jumps right onto the car, but Becky skillfully maneuvers the car in such a way that her mother is sent flying off. Carl comes to her aid, and now it's Shelly who needs a ride to the Double R. Carl immediately summons one, and they're off. Shelly calls Norma asking for advice, and Norma suggests she calls Bobby. So Carl radios into Maggie saying that he has Shelly Briggs with him, so we got official confirmation on something many have long suspected. Bobby is indeed Becky's father, and Shelly tells Bobby that their daughter took off in a car with a gun. Becky is all sorts of fired up. She thinks Steven is in a particular apartment, but a neighbor informs her otherwise, and in a fit of rage, Becky fires off a few shots through the door. The phones start blowing up on poor Maggie, and she's overwhelmed by high call volume. Bill Hastings takes the entire gang to the spot where he saw Major Briggs. Mackley, Tammy, Albert, Cole, and Diane are all present. A woodsman-like entity frightens Hastings, and Cole and Albert take note of the figure. Cole and Albert are going in. Electrical sounds amplify as Gordon approaches the area indicated by Hastings. Cole then sees some sort of portal thing opening up that only he can see. Cole resembles Gandalf the Grey casting some magical spell, and then Cole sees a vision of some dirty bearded men in a room. Albert pulls Cole back as his body appears to start fading. They seem to have confirmed some suspicion that they both had. Diane watches on smoking, and Cole and Albert discover the body of Ruth Davenport. And that seems to have materialized as a result of whatever it was Cole just experienced. The woodsman is creeping around towards the car, and Albert discovered coordinates on Ruth's arm. The woodsman then obliterates Hastings, and this scares the shit out of poor Mackley. He calls for backup, and Diane, she watches on, cool as an assassin. Cole and team venture over like a bunch of Johnny-come-latelys, and Gordon makes the astute observation that Hastings was dead. His head appeared mangled similarly to how poor Sam and Tracy were devoured by the mother of all evil. Bobby and Shelly are talking to Becky about her scumbag husband, Steven. Norma watches on disapprovingly when Becky defends him, and Bobby decides to loan Becky some money so she can make things right with the damage she caused with the firearm. Bobby and Shelly try to explain to Becky that her husband is a degenerate lowlife. The three of them then have what appears to be a magical family moment, but then Shelly gets summoned away by Red, and she runs out eagerly to kiss and greet him. Bobby watches this with more than a hint of jealousy, and Becky seems to sense her father's heartache. Shelly and Red kiss some more and set up a rendezvous, and when Shelly returns, Norma once again watches disapprovingly. A shot is fired through the window at the Double R. Bobby tells everyone to get down, and he investigates outside. Apparently some kid had gotten hold of a gun in the back seat of his parents' vehicle, and he fired it through both the vehicle and diner windows. An irate woman is honking like crazy as Bobby assesses the situation. Jesse is quick on the scene, and Bobby tells him to get information. Bobby attempts to calm down the honking woman, and she seems very agitated. She has a sick child in the car, and some really weird shit starts going on, where the kid is puking like something from The Exorcist. The woman then replaces her annoying honking with an equally irritating, horrified screaming. And Bobby watches all of this happening, seemingly mesmerized, while doing absolutely nothing. Truman and Hawk discuss the instructions from Major Briggs. Truman pinpoints a GPS location he believes to be the spot, and then Hawk rolls out a really old map with all kinds of symbols. There's cryptic messages about a fire symbol, a tainted corn fertility symbol, black fire, and the symbol that appears to refer to the mother of all evil, which also appeared on the Major's note. Hawk warns Truman that he doesn't ever want to know about that. The log lady calls Hawk, and she knows he found something. She warns Hawk that there's a fire where he's going, and that her log is afraid of fire. Jesse pops in. He wants Sheriff Truman to check out his new car, but the sheriff says he's in a meeting and he'll have a look at it tomorrow. Albert shows Cole a picture of the coordinates from Ruth's arm. Diane spies out the numbers suspiciously, just as Albert seemed to have anticipated. Mackley and Tammy bring coffee for the team. Mackley says there were no suspects at the scene, but Albert and Cole saw the dirty bearded man, and Diane says that she thinks she did too. But Mackley was actually in the car, and he saw nothing, and Tammy claims to have seen nothing either. Cole then remembers he saw the dirty bearded men in a room similar to the man creeping around at the scene before Hastings' demise. Battling Bud Mullins calls for Dougie and gets in a quick workout. Phil leads Dougie to the room with a tray full of coffees, and Battling Bud informs Cooper that he set up a meeting between Dougie and the Mitchum brothers. Battling Bud figures they'll be ecstatic that Dougie uncovered the fact that their claim was legit and that Dougie would be giving them a $30 million check. The Mitchum brothers are enjoying breakfast cereal and some coffee as they discuss their desire to kill Douglas Jones. Bradley mentions a dream to Robney, a dream he had about killing him, and Robney reminds him it's just 3 hours away. Battling Bud leads Cooper out of work, but Cooper sees a vision of one-armed Mike, who summons him, so Coop wanders off towards him, much to the dismay of Battling Bud Mullins. Battling Bud must have tracked him down because he leads him towards a limo. Battling Bud tells Cooper, "I'm in your corner, champ. Knock 'em dead." Dougie repeats the word dead, and then he gets pushed into the limo carrying the large box. It's the Red Door limo driver. He drives Coop throughout Vegas, and the Mitchum brothers are waiting for him in the middle of the desert. Bradley seems to be having second thoughts. He explains to Robney that in his dream, the cut Candy gave him was completely healed. Bradley rips the Band-Aid off of Robney, and sure enough, the cut is healed. Bradley can't remember the rest of his dream, but he seems to remember there was something important in it. The limo driver stops the car and helps Cooper out. Coop is still carrying that big old box. This startles Bradley, and he calls Robney aside, mentioning that in his dream, Dougie had a box, and there was one particular item inside the box, and that if Coop really is carrying that one item, that they can't kill him. So they ask Coop, is there a cherry pie in that box? Coop says, cherry pie. Bradley investigates, and sure enough, there's a cherry pie in that huge box. Why the hell did Battling Bud Mullins have Coop carrying around a pie in such a huge box? Bradley frisks Coop just to be safe, and he finds the check for $30 million. The Mitchum brothers are overjoyed by this, and they start howling merrily. Rather than kill Cooper, they befriend him, and they are now big-time fans of Douglas Jones. They take him out for a bite to eat, and the Mitchum brothers can't believe that Sonny Jim doesn't have a gym set. They toast with Cooper, and everyone is having a great time. Coop becomes mesmerized by the music from the piano player, and Coop is then greeted by the mean old lady who became a sweet old lady, and now she's sweeter than ever. She thanks Mr. Jackpots for changing her life. The Mitchum brothers eye this moment like proud parents, and then they sing praise upon Coop along with the sweet old lady. The Mitchum brothers are so moved, they look as if they're ready to cry. The showgirl trio appear, and Candy is her normal oblivious self. It's a mystery to me why the Mitchum brothers never ask one of the other showgirls questions instead of Candy. Who knows? When asked about what took her so long, Candy says, "So much traffic on the street. It was incredible. There were cars everywhere." Cooper is loving himself some of that cherry pie. They mention that it's damn good, and Cooper repeats the words, "damn good," and in this instance he sounded a lot more like Cooper than he did like Dougie when he said it. They toast again, and the Mitchum brothers call upon Candy, yet again, to get Cooper another piece of pie. The Mitchum brothers love Cooper now, and Candy serves him pie, and the episode ends on the piano player. So the big takeaways from part 11 for me: number 1, it doesn't matter if Chad got the right letter or not. Miriam lives, and one way or another, it appears Richard Horn and Deputy Chad will both soon be exposed. Number 2, now we know for sure that Bobby is indeed Becky's father. We know that Shelly and him were once married, and possibly never actually got divorced. And we know for sure that Shelly and Red are involved. What does all of this mean in the grand scheme of things? I'm not sure, but ultimately, one way or another, I think it spells bad news for Becky. Number 3, Cole and Albert know a lot more than what we as an audience understand at this point. The spot that Hastings showed them confirmed something that they had merely suspected before, and this was acknowledged before the woodsman obliterated Hastings, much in the same way the mother of all evil obliterated poor Sam and Tracy. I'm not sure what Cole and Albert know, but they know more than we do, that much I know. Number 4, we are still being led to believe that Diane is working for Bad Coop, and we are also aware that Cole and Albert are onto her. We saw evidence of all this in the obvious setup that allowed Diane to get a glimpse of the coordinates. I'm growing more convinced that Diane is actually working against Bad Coop, and that she simply hasn't been entirely honest with Cole in terms of full disclosure. Diane is definitely hiding something, and she seemed to quickly backtrack on seeing the dirty bearded fella when she learned that Mackley and Tammy didn't see anything like that. But I personally thought Tammy's denial of seeing that entity, I thought it seemed untruthful. So I'm becoming more convinced that it's Tammy and not Diane who's the one up to no good. Diane's up to something for sure, but I think in her mind she's fighting the good fight. However, I'm growing more and more suspicious of Tammy. And number 5, I think the most important thing to come out of part 11 involves Bradley Mitchum's dream and Candy's role in all this. I'll assume that the Mitchum's dream was the product of one-armed Mike's efforts to help navigate a reformatted Cooper throughout the world until he wakes up. That seems reasonable to me given Coop's vision of him just before the big meeting. So the cut caused by Airhead Candy, it healed in an unrealistic time frame. So how does Candy fit into all this beyond that? There's clearly something going on with Candy, and despite similar odd behavior from her two sidekicks, I'm getting the impression that there is something more going on with Candy here. I still have no idea why she's the only one the Mitchum brothers ever signal out, but she seems to be in tune with something strange that very few can perceive. I'm kind of reminded of the 119 woman. And the language Candy used when questioned by the Mitchum brothers in the final scene, she said, quote, "So much traffic on the street. It was incredible. There were cars everywhere." I can't help but be reminded of the girl from 1956 who swallowed that frog moth creature thingy. She's acting very misplaced in all this, and I can't help but wonder if there's some sort of connection between Candy and Laura Palmer. We know Laura plays a big role in all of this somehow. Could it be through Candy? I don't know, but Candy seems to be someone worthy of greater attention at this point. The way she served that pie to Cooper, that reminded me an awful lot of the way Laura once whispered to Cooper, or twice whispered to Cooper. And number 6, since the Mitchum brothers are now in love with Cooper, Tony's probably going to have to try and finish that job himself. So I thought part 11 was another powerhouse episode, and I'm sure this will come as no surprise to anyone, but I'm just itching to see part 12. I'm absolutely itching to see it. I can't wait. That's all I got. Please share your thoughts on part 11 in the comments section. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great night, everyone.